Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of the Fanatically Real broadcast, as tonight we are going to bring you the Charlie Draft Selection Show, and hopefully all of you can hear me now. I'm not sure what happened just minutes before we were going live. As I pushed the start button, I realized that the microphone was not working, so hopefully you can hear me now. Sounds like a Hoover. MJ says you can hear me. I'm hoping the Hoover thing is just because that's what my voice normally sounds like. Yeah, I have no idea what was going on. My audio something or other wasn't working. I can't even tell you what was wrong with it. I unplugged everything, plugged it all back in, and boom, here we are. Yay, Chris says he can hear. Cody's on with us as well. Awesome. Athena, back again. Thank you both, everybody that's out there. Thank you. Hey! So we are doing the Charlie Draft Selection Show today, Saturday. As soon as we get done with this, we are going to put the draft order up on Charlie's website, and they will begin drafting on Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning with whoever is the number one pick from what we're about to do. But before we do that, we're going to go through the parade of teams just like we have done with the other draft selection shows. But before we get into them, oh, cool. Everybody can hear now. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad. So before we get into that, something I wanted to do with this go-round that I did not do with Alpha and Bravo was kind of give a rundown of the defunct leagues that each one of the teams came from in the Charlie region. So we have 4 teams in this league. That's a third of the league that's coming out of the United States Football League, the old USFL that ran in the 80s. We've got 2 out of the Alliance of American Football, which was the league that just went under just before the second go-round of the XFL went under. We've got 2 from the United Football League. Is a little league that stuck around for a couple of years. Only had like 4 teams, I think, on it. We've got 1 from the American Professional Football Association. That was a league that was around in the 1920s that eventually changed to the NFL. We have 1 of those teams. We have 1 team from Arena Football 2, which was kind of like the minor leagues or the smaller market teams of Arena Football. We've got 1 from the very first XFL. That is going to be the LA Extreme, and you're going to see that in a little bit later on, which is why I was wearing the helmet whenever the show started, the first time and the second time. And then the last one we've got is we do have 1 team from the NFL Europe in this region as well, or in this league, this Charlie League as well. Eric is on with us. Good. I'm glad you're here. Mondo's on with us. So we got a lot of the Charlie League with us right now, so that's awesome. So hey, let's get into... So you don't have to see my head anymore. Let's get into this parade of teams. So the first one I got for you is the Arizona Hotshots and their general manager, Hunter Garth. This is one of the teams from the AAF, the Alliance of American Football, that just recently folded that I was talking about. They were based in Tempe, Arizona, and one of the 8 members of the AAF. They played from February to April last year, 2019. So, wow, it's been a year already since they went under. They played their home games at Sun Devil Stadium on the campus of Arizona State University. They were one of 2 AAF teams that were based in a city that already had an NFL team, with the Arizona Cardinals being where they were at and the other one being the Atlanta Legends, where the Falcons are at. On April 2nd, 2019, the league's football operations were suspended, and on 4 April, the league allowed players to leave their contracts to sign with NFL teams. The league itself filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy on April 17, 2019. At the time of the bankruptcy, the Hotshots owed over $1.2 million to the Arizona State University for leasing of the Sun Devil Stadium. Yeah, that one actually turned out really good. Even the stripe, that was probably the biggest challenge that I had with this one, was doing a stripe like that. There was there were no graphics out there that I could just grab and slap on there for that stripe. So I actually had to build that stripe. So that was probably the biggest challenge that I had with this. And we didn't really like the font that the Hotshots had on their jerseys when they were around. So we changed the jersey a little bit. Oh, Outlaws are on here. Good. I'm glad you're on. Hopefully everybody will make it on. Hey, so the next one we're going to talk about is Eric Talbot's team. He's on right now. He is the one team that's from the original APFA, which eventually became the NFL. They played their first season in 1920. They were coming off of a 9-1-1 record from 1919 when they were the Buffalo Prospects in the New York Pro Football League. Several representatives from another professional football league, which was the Ohio League, wanted to form a new national league, and thus the APFA was created. Buffalo reshaped itself for the 1920 season. Only 2 players from that 1919 season stayed, and the team went into new management. They opened the season with a 32-6 victory over the local semi-pro team called West Buffalo, en route to that 9-1-1 season. The only loss that year was a 3-0 game against the Canton Bulldogs. And when we went in to create this one, the original colors for the All-Americans were orange and black. And as we were putting it together and I knew what logo I wanted to use for Eric on this, the orange and black just wasn't turning out. And then I looked at his profile from when he signed up for the Dynasty League and asked him, was he a Buffalo Bills fan? And he said he was. So you can kind of see where that was built out of that. Buffalo blue, the old red helmet before they switched to the white helmet. And a lot of people are going to think that is the Buffalo Sabres Buffalo that you see there, and it's not. It's a slight variation. That is actually from a European hockey team is where we grabbed that logo from. The original colors of it, crazy enough, were orange and black. But we did not like it, and this is what we ended up coming up with. The next team that we got is the one team that played in the Arena Football 2 League. That was for the smaller market teams that were part of the Arena Football League. And this is the Central Valley Coyotes and their GM, Jared Gordon. They began as an expansion member of the AF2 in 2002, and they were originally known as a Bakersfield Blitz until they changed their marker in 2004 to the Central Valley Coyotes. They played their home games at Selland Arena in Fresno, California. The team was in discussions for moving over to the Indoor Football League, and they were going to do that in 2011. However, those plans failed and the team ceased operations in December 2010. Let's move on to the Florida Tuskers, one of my favorite ones that I got to work on while we were doing this. So the Florida Tuskers were one of the 2 teams that we got in this group, the Charlie group from the UFL. They were awarded the franchise for their premier season in 2009. The former New Orleans Saints and St. Louis Rams head coach Jim Haslett was named the first head coach for this team. The Tuskers put together a league-best undefeated 6-0 record in the regular season, clinching a spot in the championship game in Week 4. However, in the championship game, the Tuskers were beaten by the Las Vegas Locomotives, losing on a game-winning field goal in overtime. Despite the team being unable to complete a perfect season, Jim Haslett was still named Coach of the Year. The Tuskers appeared in the first 2 UFL championship games, losing both of them to Las Vegas Locomotives. And in 2010, the league suspended the Tuskers' operations and moved the remnants of the team to Virginia Beach to assume the identity of the Virginia Destroyers, and previously announced expansion team that was to begin play in 2011. The Destroyers' business license expired on March 1, 2013, and the team ceased operations. That's the lineage there for the Florida Tuskers. And this one was a lot of fun to work with as well. The stripe that's across the chest there, that white, silver, green, and black, that's the first time that I had ever attempted something like that, and the sleeves as well. And then the great thing about this stripe on this helmet was there was already an image out there for me to be able to grab and slap on there. And that turned out really, really good. And I'm glad David let me do this one for him. He liked it so much that now that he's coming back with us in the redraft league after a little bit of a hiatus, he is actually going to use the Florida Tuskers in both leagues this year, as the redraft and in the dynasty. So that's super cool. All right, so the next one up is the LA Extreme, the helmet that I had on as we started the show today. That is the team from the old original XFL. They were based in Los Angeles. Let's see, the team played its home games at the LA Memorial Coliseum. They started in the spring of 2001. They finished the season in first place with a 7-3 record, and they defeated the Chicago Enforcers in the playoffs, and then the San Francisco Demons in what was called the $1 million game at the end. Final score was 38-6. They win the league's sole championship. LA Extreme were the only champions of the XFL because NBC dropped the XFL concept after the first season due to dismal ratings. And then shortly after this, McMahon announced that the league would be dissolved. However, at that time, the Extremes quarterback, Tommy Maddox, who had led them to that $1 million game at the end of the season, caught on with the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFL. He later led them into the playoffs in 2002, and then he won a Super Bowl ring in 2005. Maddox was also awarded the XFL's Most Valuable Player of the Year that they won the big championship game at the end. The Destroyers won the last UFL championship as well. That's pretty cool. So not only did they do well when they were the Tuskers, they won whenever they switched over and were the Virginia Destroyers as well. That's pretty good to know. Thank you for putting that up there for us, Rocky. All right, so the next one, and I know he's out there right now. Kevin, I think you're out there. The New Jersey Generals. So they were a franchise in the USFL League, one of 4 teams that we've got in this group. They were established in 1982 and began playing in the spring and summer of 1983. The team played 3 seasons from 83 to 85, winning 31 regular season games and losing 25 while going 0-2 in postseason competition. Their home games were played in Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. In 1984, owner Walter Duncan he got tired of flying the 1,500 miles from his home in Oklahoma City to watch his team play. And he believed that the Generals were far too important to the USFL to have an absentee owner, so he decided to sell to a local buyer. After the 1983 season, he did finally find a buyer, and that was who is now President of the United States, Donald Trump, who he originally angled to get a franchise in 1982 before backing out. This team operated until 1986 when that season was canceled after the USFL won a nominal $3 verdict in an antitrust lawsuit against the NFL, and the league folded soon afterwards. So Kevin Godwin, the general manager here, what we wanted to do is we did not really want to go with the old look of the Generals from the 80s. And as we were scouring the internet, we found somebody who had put together something that looked similar to what you're seeing right here. Kevin liked it, I liked it. We decided to put it together and bring the Generals back to life with a little bit of a new look. I think this red is a whole lot better than the old red was. I like this logo a whole lot more than the old logo, and this just all went together. Another one of those images that really challenged me from the graphic side, especially putting the shoulders on there with the shoulder boards and the 5 stars on there. So the SFL logo for the Generals. I don't know what SFL stands for, Rocky. You have to let me know. All right, so the next one, Oklahoma Outlaws, and I think they said they were out there. Oklahoma Outlaws and Metric Dunning. So we get Metric with a friendship with Justin Clyburn, and we're going to talk about his team here in a little bit. Big history behind the Oklahoma Outlaws, so stay with me as I'm talking about this. Another one of the teams that came from the USFL. They played in the mid-'80s as well. They were owned by a Fresno banker and real estate agent whose name was William Tatham Sr., who had briefly owned the Portland Thunder of the World Football League. During the first season, the team played as the Oklahoma Outlaws. They became the Arizona Outlaws during their second season. The Outlaws were originally slated to play in San Diego. However, under pressure from baseball's San Diego Padres and the NFL San Diego Chargers at that time, the city refused to grant Tatham a lease for Jack Murphy Stadium. He scrambled for a home. Tatham seriously considered playing in Honolulu for their inaugural season in 1984. However, he ended up settling on Tulsa, Oklahoma, even though the city had not even been included in a list of possible expansion sites for the USFL. Tatham was initially skeptical about basing a team in Tulsa. It was only the 60th largest television market, which would have made it by far the smallest market in the league. Moreover, the only viable facility around the area was the University of Tulsa Skelly Stadium. It needed major renovations to bring it into something approaching professional standards. However, Tatham had roots in Oklahoma and eventually concluded that putting his team there would give something back to the state. So he christened his team the Oklahoma Outlaws. The club was the second major league sports team to play in the state after the North American Soccer League's Tulsa Roughnecks. Ultimately, there was a merger between the Arizona Wranglers and the Outlaws. The The merged team was to be known as the Arizona Outlaws, and they would take the Wranglers' place at Arizona State University's Sun Devil Stadium. So they played as the Oklahoma Outlaws for 1 year and then were the Arizona Outlaws after that. The next team that we got is the Mountain Lions, Sacramento Mountain Lions. It's one of the other teams from the UFL. They were partnered up with the Tuskers in the UFL. Sacramento Mountain Lions were coached by Denny Green. You all should probably know that name. For 3 out of the 4 years of its existence, the franchise originated as the California Redwoods and played its home games in San Francisco and San Jose before relocating to Hornet Stadium in Sacramento, California in 2010. On March 3rd, 2010, the league declared that the team would permanently relocate to Hornet Stadium in Sacramento as part of a deal with Sacramento State University that saw the UFL provide a new artificial turf for the facility. Despite the California Redwoods name still being valid, as the team remained the only UFL team in the state, league officials also announced that California Redwoods branding would be abandoned. A new name was decided through a fan vote, though the name Redwoods remained as a possible choice. On April 6, 2010, the league announced that the franchise would be known as the Sacramento Mountain Lions. Amid financial problems, the UFL abruptly folded in the middle of the 2012 season. The California Redwoods / Sacramento Mountain Lions amassed an 8-14 record over the 4 years of its existence. The helmet turned out really good on this one too. The color scheme, everything. If you go out and look and compare this to what the actual uniforms looked like, this is dead on close. The only thing that's different is the font is a little bit different on the jersey. We couldn't quite find the actual font that was there. Colors are on. The name across the jersey is on. The stripe down the center of the helmet took a little bit of time to work on. Edward's on with us, is Edward's team. If you all remember who Edward is, he plays with us in the redraft league as the Werebears. He ended up running up the big championship with us over there, I think about 2 years ago. Decided he wanted to jump in on the Dynasty realm with us this year, and this is Edward's team. So the next 2 teams that we're getting into are out of San Antonio, the first one being the San Antonio Commanders, one of the other teams that came out of the recently defunct AAF, and I say recently, but it's really been over a year now. They were one of the 8 members in the AAF. Just like we said earlier, the league began play in February. The team did play their home games at the Alamo Dome. The league's football operations reportedly suspended on 2 April, and then on 4 April, the league allowed players to leave their contract to sign with NFL teams. The league filed for their Chapter 7 bankruptcy on April 17th, and what we had said earlier about numbers of money that was still left out there in debt. The league left debts of over $1.4 million for 3 local hotels and $200,000 to a catering business that was local. The Commanders, who drew an average of approximately 27,720 fans to each home game, were by far the best attended team in the AAF. And we'd like to thank Erica for joining us in the Dynasty League this year. And those jerseys are pretty much dead on what the San Antonio Commanders had as well for the year. So the next one is Erica's husband, Mondo Gutierrez, and you probably know him as the front man of the Recast, who are our official music of FSA. He decided on a San Antonio team as well, as that's where he is based out of. But he took the San Antonio Gunslingers. They were another one of our teams that are from the USFL, and they operated in 1983 and 1984. They played at the Alamo Stadium. Going into the 1984 season, the USFL made the decision to expand to 18 franchises to boost league capital. However, efforts to expand to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Seattle fell through. San Antonio was mentioned as a possible market for expansion as rapid growth through the 70s propelled it to a major city status. But by 1984, almost 800,000 people lived in San Antonio, making it the 11th largest city in the United States. Despite this, a series of studies of possible new cities concluded that San Antonio could not support a USFL team. The San Antonio area then, as now, was considered a medium-sized market because the surrounding suburban and rural areas were far smaller than the city itself. In June of 1985, team owner Clinton Magnus simply stopped paying the franchise's bills. The players and coaches played the last 4 games of that season without being paid. Not surprisingly, the Gunslingers barely survived the season. Attendance crashed to 11,721, the second worst in the league. And shortly after the season, after another missed payroll, the entire roster was put on waivers. A month after the season, Commissioner Harry Usher had seen enough. He ordered Magnus to make restitution for the team's debts in 15 days or lose the franchise. When this didn't occur, Gunslingers became the only USFL franchise to be revoked. The Gunslingers holding company, which was called South Texas Sports, was auctioned off to pay for more than $650,000 of debts to former players. The players also sued Magnus to recover back pay, but that suit collapsed when Magnus filed for bankruptcy. At least some of the players still hadn't been paid at the time of the 1998 reunion for the team, and no players or staff members that were owed back wages had been paid at the time of Magnus's death in 2010. Let's see. What's Hinkle say? He said, I want to apologize to the Commanders and Gunslinger couple now for being in my division. They are nice uniforms, though. Yeah, the logo here for the Gunslingers, very interesting. I think a couple people that had seen that said it looks like Woody from Toy Story. Maybe appropriate. All right, so our second to last team is the Scottish Claymores, our one team that's played from the NFL Europe League. Scottish Claymores were based in Scotland. The franchise played in the World League of American Football, which was later named NFL Europe, between 1995 and 2004. In 10 seasons of NFL Europe play, the Claymores reached the World Bowl on 2 occasions, with a victory in World Bowl 1996, but a loss in World Bowl 2000. Their name derives from that of the claymore of a double-edged sword historically used in Scottish clan warfare. On 21 October 2004, NFL Europe announced that the Scottish Claymores would be discontinued in favor of a franchise in a more competitive German market. The Claymores were ultimately replaced by the Hamburg Sea Devils on 24 November for the 2005 NFL Europe season. And I wish Justin was on with us right now. So right after we built this brand for Justin, he decided to go out and see if there was anybody that was still selling old NFL or NFL Europe gear, like as a collection. And he was able to score a full-sized helmet for the Claymores, just like you saw me wearing the LA Extreme earlier today, for $30 from a collector. So great find. I'm hoping that he will post that up somewhere for us on social media so y'all can see that. So super awesome find. Brian Bashore, you've taken over my TV. Got to say, it's looking pretty good. All right, cool. I like it. I always wondered what I would look like on the big screen. All right, so our last but not least, and I know Ricky/Rocky is out there right now, the Washington Federals. Now, this is going to sound a little weird when I start reading this, but hold on to what you got until I get a little bit deeper into this. So the Orlando Renegades were a professional American football team that played in Orlando, Florida in the United States Football League for a single season in 1985. Before its season in Orlando, the franchise played in Washington, D.C. as the Washington Federals for 2 seasons. So the Federals that you see now played in 1983 and 1984, and they later became the Orlando Renegades in 1985. The franchise was the worst in USFL in terms of both gameplay, with a combined record of 7-22, and attendance during its 2 seasons in Washington, prompting the move to Orlando. While they were in Orlando, attendance was better and the team's performance on the field began to improve over the course of the season, despite a 5-13 record, but the USFL folded before the team could play a second season in Orlando. The Federals played in RFK Memorial Stadium in Washington, D.C. However, under pressure from the Redskins, the city refused to grant Federals full access to the facilities. They were forced to practice on a small practice field across the street from a prison. Cool. All right, so this is, okay, that's the parade of the teams. This is the part you all really came for, though, right? You want to see where you're going to be drafted when we start this draft at 6 o'clock in the morning on East Coast time on Monday morning, right? This is what you all really came for. So I'm going to show you just like I did for Alpha and Bravo. I've got all of your brands right here in front of me. All 12 of you are sitting right here. What we're going to do is we're just going to talk a little bit while I fold these up and see if you all have any questions before we get started. Hopefully those that are new to this got a chance to go out and watch Alpha and Bravo's Dynasty draft selection shows, or actually if you even went out and watched the redraft draft selection shows over the last year or two, you'd see that we use dice to be able to make this happen. But before this year, we were using actual dice that we were rolling here on the desktop, and now we've got these virtual dice that you see here in the middle of the screen. So what's going to happen is the very first pick that we make is going to be us shaking up these 12 teams in this 25th anniversary Walter the Wizard hat here. We're going to pull a team out, and we're going to roll the 12-sided die. When we roll that 12-sided die, whatever number comes up, that's where that team will go to start this whole draft selection show off. They will move into that position. We will then roll 2 6-sided dice. The 2 6-sided dice is what you see there on the left-hand side of the screen. That's what we call our action dice. Whatever the total is on those 2 6-sided dice, you can see all of the different things that will happen there right below where you see my face at right now. We start over if we roll Snake Eyes, which will only happen once. So if we roll Snake Eyes a second time, we were going to lock a team instead. That was a suggestion that was given to us in the Alpha League after we rolled Snake Eyes twice during that draft selection. Very good idea. Number 3 means we will pull a team off of the board, so we'll roll a D12, and if there is a team in that slot, we will pull them from the board, and they will go thrown back into the hat with a chance of going back up on the board later. If it's a number 4, we will move up one position based on an odd number, or we will move down one position based on an even number. And when I say move up and down, that means we will move up and down the entire board, and the board does wrap. So if you are in the number 1 spot and you're moving up, you're going down to the number 12 spot. Or if you're in the number 12 spot and we're moving down, you are going to go into the number 1 spot. Hope that makes sense to everybody. If we roll a 5, we're going to roll a D12 until a spot is open and filled. If we roll a 6, we're going to swap positions of 2 teams with 2 D12s. So we will roll 2 12-sided dice, and we will swap the 2 spots that are there. Same thing, let's see, if we roll a 7, we're going to roll a D12 until a position is filled. Same for 8. 9 will be the same thing as what 6 is. We're going to swap 2 positions. Number 10, we will roll a D12 and replace the team if the position is filled. So in this case, we're going to roll a D12, and let's say that there's a team in number 3 spot, and we roll a 3. The team that we rolled will go on the board, and the team that was in the number 3 spot will come off the board. If we roll an 11, the team that we roll on the 12-sided dice, if they are in a position, will get locked, and they will be locked for the rest of the draft selection show, no matter what happens, whether we move up or down the board, or even if we got to start over at that point. Once you're locked, you were locked. That is your position. And then when we say 12, we're going to flip the whole board. Imagine everybody's positions changing as if we were just taking it and going like this with it. 12 becomes 1, 11 becomes 2, 10 becomes 3, and so on and so forth. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. So, Walter the Wizard hat. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 teams. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to shake them up. We're going to pull a team out of this hat. And then we're going to, we got one that jumped out, so that's the one we're going to pick. And then we're going to roll the 12-sided dice. And whatever team that just came out of the hat is going to go into that position. The team that just came out of the hat is the Buffalo All-Americans. Eric, you're getting ready to go into the number 3 spot. So what we need to do is make sure the All-Americans show up. You're going to see them right there in the corner of my little screen. And we're going to move the All-Americans into the number 3 spot, and they are our first team on the board. All right, now that we've got a team on the board, the next thing we do is roll our action dice. We're rolling the action dice, which is the 2d12 that you see there on the left-hand side of the screen. And we get a number 4. That means if we're going to roll the 12-sided dice, and since Eric is the only one on the board, if we roll an odd number, he's going to move up to number 2. If we roll an even number, he's going to move down to number 4. So we're going to roll that dice right now. It is an even number, which is an 8, so he is going to move down to the number 4 position. And we are going to roll action dice again. 2d6s, we get a number 7. It means we're going to roll a d12 until a position is filled, but before we fill a position, we need to pull a team out of the hat. So we're going to shake this up. Oop, another team jumped out. That'll be the one we grab. That team is the Washington Federals. Washington Federals, we are going to roll a 12-sided dice until you are on the board. If we roll anything but a 4, you will go on the board. If it is a full, we will roll again. And the number 5 spot. So we need to get the Washington Federals up here in the corner of the screen. We need to unlock them, and we need to move them into the number 5 spot. So, Rocky, you are sitting in the number 5 spot currently. All right, now it is time to roll action dice again. Let's see, what do we got out there? Chris says, I am wearing Walter as we speak. You got the 25th anniversary, Walter, don't you? All right, we've got a 6. 6 means we're going to swap teams' positions with a 2d12. So let me show you what this is going to look like. We're going to add a second 12-sided dice to this roll here. If we end up rolling a 4 or a 5 and another number, one of those two teams could be swapping positions. So let's see what happens. We roll a 10 and a 12, and there is nobody in either one of those positions, so everybody stays right where they are, and we are going to throw the action dice again. We have an 8, and it says we're going to roll a d12 until a position is filled, but before we do that, we have to get us another team. And that team that we are going to get is the Oklahoma Outlaws that later became the Arizona Outlaws, and Metric Dunning's team. And we are going to roll a d12, a single one, until we fill a position. Metric, you are going into the number 10 spot with the Outlaws. And there you are right there. All right, on to some action dice. We rolled a 5, so another roll a d12 until a position is filled. But before we do that, we got to pull another team out of the hat. So just so you all know who have not seen this before, we will do this until all 12 teams are on the board, and then we will roll the 6-sided dice, or the action dice, one more time. That last roll sometimes plays a big part in this. Right now we got the LA Extreme and Joshua Lorenzo. And I didn't even say where we ended up getting Josh from. This is actually, and Kevin tells me this is his brother. This is Kevin's Godwin's brother, Joshua, here. And we are going to roll a d12 until a position is filled, and we're going to put the LA Extreme in there. We are rolling a 7. LA Extreme show up on my face, and we're going to put them in the number 7 slot. And we are going to roll some action dice. When we just put the LA Extreme on the board, we are going to throw dice, and we got a 6. 6 means we're going to swap positions with a 2d12, so let's add a second 12-sided dice. If we roll 4, 5, 7, or 10 along with another number, even if that spot is empty, we will be moving one of those teams into that spot. So right now we are rolling a 1 and an 11, and there are nobody in either one of those spots right now, so we are back onto the action dice. We rolled a 5. 5 says we're going to roll a d12 until a position is filled, but before we do that, we've got to get another team. We've got 2 of them now. Pick the one out here in the middle. Let's see who we've got now. Sacramento Mountain Lions and Edward Wright. And let's see where Edward's going to go. We need to get ourselves back to just one 12-sided dice. Edward, you are going into the number 11 spot right now. So let's get the Mountain Lions on there. Unlock them. Put you in the number 11 spot. I like that logo a lot. I like the whole uniform and the way it went together. All right. Action dice. Eric O'Neill on with us from Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm going to be chatting with those guys after we get done doing the Charlie Draft Selection Show. Very much looking forward to that. 11. This is going to lock a team if we roll on the 12-sided dice a 4, 5, 7, 10, or 11. That team will be locked and will not move no matter what happens the rest of the Draft Selection Show. And that number is a number 4. And that means the Buffalo All-Americans are locked and will not go anywhere for the rest of the show. Congratulations. Hopefully Eric is okay with that spot, and you know where you are at now, my friend. All right, let's roll some action dice. We roll an 8. 8 says we're going to roll a D12 until a position is filled. That means we have to pull another one out. This could be a nightmare for post-edit. Yeah, you know what? That's the reason why you all don't see Bravos up yet, because we had so many problems with Bravo. I haven't tried to put that kind of pressure on Brandon to be able to do that. I do have to send him the last 2 weekly broadcasts, though, for him to put those up. But as far as putting the Bravo one up, yeah, I haven't put that kind of pressure on him yet. We've got the Florida Tuskers and David Hinkle on the block right now. We are going to roll the D12 until he gets a spot. Nope, no snake eyes yet, Damien. All right, number 7. 7 is filled right now by the LA Extreme, so we have to roll again. Number 7 again. Number 10 is taken up by the Outlaws. The number 4 is locked with the Buffalo All-Americans. Number 8. 8 is currently open. The Florida Tuskers are going to be moving into the number 8 spot currently. Let's roll some action dice. 6. 6 means we're going to swap teams' positions with a 2d12. So let me get 2 12-sided dice up here. We're going to throw them. And we've got 8 and 9. So we just put the Florida Tuskers on the board. And they are going to be sliding from the 8 position to the 9 position. And we're back on the action dice. Damien says, good, I haven't missed the good part yet. Yeah, that we're bound to the way that this thing has been working with a random number generator. We're bound to at least get 1 snake eyes before this is over. 8 means we're going to roll a d12 until a position is filled, but we need to get a team out of the hat first. That team is going to be the New Jersey Generals, Kevin Godwin. We are going to roll into roll the 12-sided dice until a spot is filled. 1 12-sided dice. And the number 8 spot that we just moved the Tuskers out of, the Generals are now going to move into. I really do like this 5-star logo too. It looks really good. Really, really good. All right, let's roll some action dice. He said it's the only part we want to see. You all tune in just to see the snake eyes, right? Thanks, y'all. Hey, we got another locked team. I don't think that's ever happened. 2 in 1 show. Let's see if we get one of these teams that are currently on the board. We get a lot of spots filled. Let's see if we lock another one. Number 5. Rocky, you are locked for the rest of the draft selection show. So the number 4 and the number 5 spots will go nowhere. Let's throw some action dice. 8. D12 until a position opens up. Well, we've only got, what, 5 spots left? So not very many spots left. Could take a little bit to roll this until we get one that is open, but the team we're putting on the board right now is the Scottish Claymores and Justin Clyburn. Justin, let's see where we're going to put you. Number 6. That is currently open. Let's get the Claymores on the board in the number 6 spot. And let's roll an action dice. 3. Pull team from the board. So if we roll any of the numbers of the teams that are on the board, except for 4 or 5 right now, that team goes off the board and their brand, their banner, goes back into the hat. Let's see who we're pulling off. 12. We've got nobody in the 12 spot. Nobody's coming off the board. Rolling the action dice again. 8. D12 until a spot is filled. We've only got 4 spots left. 4 teams in here. Could take a little bit of rolling to be able to make that happen. See who we got now. San Antonio Gunslingers, Mondo Gutierrez. Let's see, Mondo, where we're going to put you. Number 5, that spot is filled. Number 2, that spot is open. The Gunslingers, with their little logo that looks like Woody from Toy Story, is going into the number 2 spot. And let's roll action dice. Number 5, D12 until a position is filled. 3 spots left at 1, 3, and 12. Could take a while to get that to fill up. And we got the Arizona Hot Shots and Hunter Garth. Only a couple spots left to fill. Could be rolling this dice for a little bit. Number 2 just got filled. We're going to roll again. Number 6 is currently filled. Number 10 is filled. Number 2, again, filled. Number 3, Arizona Hot Shots are moving into the number 3 spot currently. And we're going to roll action dice. We roll a 6. That means we're going to swap teams' positions with a 2d12. Let's add a second d12 dice up here and roll. Get to see maybe our first swap. 6 and 9 are changing, so the Claymores and the Tuskers are changing. Claymores are going to go down to 9. Tuskers are going to go up to number 6. And we're rolling some action dice. We rolled a 6. That means we're going to swap teams' positions with 2d12. We still got the two 12-sided dice queued up. We're going to roll. We've got the number 10 and the number 1. That means the Outlaws that are sitting in the number 10 spot are moving up to the number 1 spot right now. Action dice coming your way. 6. Swap teams' positions. I do like this. This is my favorite roll of them all. Let's roll 2d12s. We got the 9 and the 10. So we just moved the Claymores over to 9, a roll back, and now we're sliding them down to number 10. Let's roll some action dice. 6. Swap teams' positions again. 2d12 says we are going to be moving 6 and 8. So we just moved the Tuskers up from the 9. They are going to go down to 8 now. The Generals are moving up into 6. Tuskers there at 8. Back on the action dice. Snake Eyes! Oh, we knew it was going to happen at least once. So we got to leave the number 4 and the number 5 on the board. So we are pulling number 1 off, which is going to be the Outlaws. Let me move them off the board first. Let me move them out of the number 1 spot. Let's move the Gunslingers off the board. Let's move the Hot Shots off the board. Number 4 and 5 stay right where they're at. Generals are coming off the board. LA Extreme are coming off the board. Florida Tuskers are coming off the board. Scottish Claymores coming off the board. And the Mountain Lions coming off the board. And let me hide all of those so we can't see them anymore. Oops, All American stays. My apologies. And the Federal stay. And I have to fold all of you all back up and put you in the hat minus the Buffalo All-Americans and the Washington Federals. Yeah, boom, everybody's excited for it. Damien's excited. He says winning. Yeah, thanks y'all. I mean, it wasn't like we haven't already been live for 49 minutes as it is with technical difficulties, so this definitely makes it fun for me. I say that with all sincerity. All right. So the last two that we still got sitting out, Washington Federals and Buffalo All-Americans, everybody else is back in the hat. And now that that has happened, we are going to roll 2 6-sided dice. 2 6-sided dice say we're going to roll a 5. We're going to roll a d12 until a position is filled. But we've got to shake these newly placed teams back in the hat. So if for some crazy reason we roll Snake Eyes again before this show is done, that will lock a team just like the 11 has done for the Buffalo All-Americans and the Washington Federals. There will be no more putting everybody back in the hat. New Jersey Generals are going to go into, clear this out to 1 12-sided dice. New Jersey Generals are going into the number 6 spot this time. So let's turn you back on, Generals. Oops. We got to get the Generals first. There we go. Generals move into the number 6 spot. All right, let's roll some action dice. Rolled a 7. We're going to roll a d12 until a position is open up. Means we got to pull another team out of the hat. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a fast draft selection as well. I thought, what are the chances that we're going to be able to get out of here and not have a Snake Eyes? But we know with the way the random number generator works for this thing, that's just not feasible. For the first time, we're pulling out the Central Valley Coyotes, and we're going to put them in a spot. It is going to be the number 4 spot. We can't put them there. That team is locked. into the number 8 spot. So the Coyotes are coming off the board, and they are going to the number 8 spot. Coming out of the holding area, I should say, onto the board. Let's roll some action dice. David, I'm glad you like this. I just wish we wouldn't have all the technical difficulties to go along with this. This is, you know, we've done this the last couple of years. I like doing this with the dice, adding that kind of Dungeons & Dragons fantasy feel to it. And you never know where you're going to go until the dice stop rolling. That's what I like about this. But these technical difficulties really put a little bit of a damper on this. Number 9, we're going to swap positions with 2d12. The only two teams that we would be able to swap would be the 6 and the 8 right now. When you add a second 12-sided dice on there and see what we get. A 10 and a 2, there's nobody in those spots, so we're going to roll the action dice again. Got a number 5. 5 means we're going to roll a d12 till position is open, but we got to get a team out the hat first. All right, we are going to pull out the LA Extreme. We're going to go back down to 1 12-sided die. We're going to roll in, and we're going to put the Extreme in the number 11 spot. Number 11 onto the action dice. Well, the one thing I know I don't have to worry about anymore is Snake Eyes. At least that's out of the way. 9. We're going to swap positions with 2d12. Let's see what we get. We get a number 3 and a number 4. The number 4 team is already locked, so they will not change. We are back over to the action. We got a 10. D12, replace a team if the position is already filled. So what we're going to do here is, oops, let me clear this. We are going to pull another team out of the hat. Then we will roll the 12-sided dice. This team will go into that spot, even if it's filled, unless it's 4 or 5, because they are locked. If it's filled, this team will go into that spot, and the team that's currently in that spot will come off the board. And it is the San Antonio Commanders. We will roll 1 12-sided dice and see where she goes on the board. She's going to go into the number 11 spot. The LA Extreme were there. They are not locked. They are coming off the board. And we are putting the Commanders in there, in that spot, at number 11. And now that we have pulled the LA Extreme off the board, we got to make sure that they go back into the hat. And they are going back in there right now. And now we roll some more action dice. Number 7 means we're going to roll a d12 until a position is open. So we're going to shake this up. Pull our next team out. Next team out are the Arizona Hot Shots. And we're going to see where we put Hunter Garth at. He is going to go into the number 1 spot. We'll see if he stays in that spot. I know he's got to be super excited right now. Hunter, we're putting you in the number 1 spot currently. Let's roll some action dice. We have a number 7. We're going to roll a d12 until the position is filled. All right. See what team goes up on the board. Sacramento Mountain Lions, Edward Wright. Edward, we're going to roll until we fill a spot with you. Number 10 is currently open, so the Mountain Lions will go into the number 10 spot. And let's roll some action dice. Number 8. 8 means we roll a d12 until a spot opens up. Oh, and one just jumped right out of the hat, so guess what? We're going to grab that one. That is the Scottish Claymores. We're going to roll until we fill a spot with Justin's team. Number 1 spot is currently occupied, so we have to roll again. Number 5 also occupied. Number 1 again. Number 4 filled. Number 2 is open. The Scottish Claymores are going to the number 2 spot. Oops, what did we grab there? We want the Scottish Claymores. There we go. Scottish Claymores going into the number 2 spot. Pretty sure we could probably shut that LA Extreme logo off there. And let's roll some action dice. Number 8, D12 until a position is filled. We've got left the 3, 7, 9, and 12. Right now we are pulling out Florida Tuskers. David, we're getting ready to put you back up on the board in the number 9 spot. Let's grab you. Love that logo. put you right there in the number 9 spot. Let's roll some action dice. Number 8, same thing, D12 until a position is filled. We've only got the 3, 7, and 12 left. 3 teams left in here. Is there a team that hasn't made it onto the board yet at all? I think we've had everybody on the board at least once, right? We got the LA Extreme getting ready to go back up there in the 3, 7, or 12. This could take a while for us to roll one of those numbers. Seven. So we are moving the LA Extreme into the number 7 spot. And we roll in some action dice. Number 3 means we're going to pull one of these teams from the board. The only teams that we cannot pull from the board are 4 and 5 right now. So let's see who we are going to pull from the board. Number 12, nobody in that spot currently, so we go back to the action dice. Eric says, I feel like I'm missing all the fun being locked. Yeah, but think about who you could grab at number 4 right now and start putting your strategy around that. That's the best part. Ooh, we are about to lock another team unless we roll a 3 or a 12. Let's see who we are going to lock next. And when you know we roll a 12, nobody in that spot. Let's roll some action dice. Number 7, D12 until a position is filled. So we've only got the 3 and the 12 spots left. So let's see how many rolls it takes for us to fill 3 or 12 with the Outlaws. Let's roll. Look at that, right to the 12. So we are putting the Outlaws and Metric Dunnings right into the 12 spot. That means the last spot we have to fill is the number 3 spot, but that only happens if we get the correct D6 here, which is swap teams positions with 2D12. This is going to be awesome since the board is pretty much full right now. The only teams that don't go anywhere are 4 and 5. So let's see who's going to move. 11 and 9 are changing positions. So the Commanders are moving up to 9 and the Tuskers are moving back down to 11. Now I know the guys at the end of the draft right now in those later rounds, don't forget, this is a 3rd round reversal draft. If you don't know what that means, basically imagine the draft order for the 2nd round, just like it normally would be for a snake draft, where we go 1 through 12 and 12 through 1. The 3rd round is also 12 through 1. It mirrors the 2nd round, but after we go through that 12 through 1 in the 3rd round, it will continue like a regular snake. So 12 through 1, 1 through 12, 12 through 1. So that's a way to try to balance teams in a starter league like what we're doing by flipping that 3rd round around or flipping the rest of the draft right there at that spot. So if you did not know that, you do now. It is a 3rd round reversal draft. Action dice. Number 8 says D12 until a position is filled. We already know there's only 1 spot left. There's no reason to continue rolling the 12. That is going to be the San Antonio Gunslingers. Let's get them up on the board. This is not the draft order yet. Remember, after the board is filled, we've got 1 more roll. This last roll could have a lot of implication on what this final draft order is. Let's see what happens. Number 3 means we're going to pull a team from the board. Let's see who we pull off the board. Ooh, man, it was sitting there on that number 1 for a second. I thought we were going to pull. So we are pulling the number 10, the Mountain Lions, off the board. And even though that doesn't seem like it would be a very big deal right now since we've only got the 1 spot left, once we roll this action dice again, that could become a very big deal. Action dice says we're at 10. We're going to do a D12 and replace the team if the position is filled. The only team that we have to be able to fill them with right now is the Mountain Lions that are out. So the Mountain Lions are going to replace whatever spot we roll right now, which is the number 6. So right now, the Mountain Lions move into the number 6 spot, and the Generals come off the board. So now the Generals are the lone team that are out there, and we are going to roll the action dice. We roll a 5, which means we're going to roll a D12 until a position is filled. The only spot that's filled is the number 10. I've got to get the Generals back on the board, put them in the 10, and we're going to roll the action dice one more time. Board is filled. Let's see what happens. We got a number 8, means D12 until a position is filled. All of the positions are filled. There is nobody to move around from this point. What you see on the board right now is the draft order for the Charlie draft that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning East Coast time on Monday the 18th. That order is going to be the Arizona Hotshots, the Scottish Claymores, San Antonio Gunslingers, the Buffalo All-Americans, the Washington Federals, the Sacramento Mountain Lions, LA Extreme, Central Valley Coyotes, San Antonio Commanders, the New Jersey Generals, the Florida Tuskers, and the Oklahoma Outlaws. That is our draft order for the Charlie draft. As soon as I get done having my chat with the guys from the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football podcast, I will get that draft order put up for you all on the Charlie MFL page, and I'll shoot you a message to let you know that it is there. I appreciate everybody showing up. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning and throughout the show. We made it through it, done and over with. Now the drafting starts on Monday. Let me know if you have any questions. Reach out to me on GroupMe, and we'll see you bright and early Monday morning. You all have a good rest of your Saturday and weekend.